towards the end of our schmooze session, I wasn't really meant to have children. And here I am now, Baruch Hashem, Hodul Hashem, the very blessed mommy of 5, Ben Porat Yosef. But the story that I'm going to share with you now is about my daughter Gali. You see, in all of my struggles with infertility, I was told by tzaddikim that if I wanted to have a child of my own, a biological child, that I would need to give up something that was very much a way of my life. They told me that my neshama was on a very high level, but my body was not. So these babies that keep forming inside me, they get so confused. Who's the real mommy? Is the real mommy the neshama mommy that's all the way up here? Or is mommy the body mommy that's not exactly on the same level? So 2 big tzaddikim instructed me after my worst miscarriage that I should bridge the gap between my outside and my inside. They said, I should perhaps consider stopping wearing pants. Now, for me, I grew up like that. That's how my mom was. That's how all of us were. My aunts, my cousins, my grandmother, everybody. So I didn't really think that that had anything to do with my struggles. And I said, but it's more science. It's a little bit more, dare I say, medicine, not so much spiritual. So these rabbis said, listen, we're coming to you as guidance, as guiders, as leaders, just to try to shed some light on the situation. Perhaps it's something to look into. I love a good challenge. And I said, you know what? If they're telling me that perhaps it's the pants that's preventing myself from reaching the maximum where I would be blessed with children, then I'll get rid of my pants. What's the big deal? If I get rid of all of my pants and I fall pregnant and it lasts, it was worth it. And if I get rid of my pants and I don't fall pregnant, or chas v'shalom, I have another miscarriage, then I will feel like I did my due diligence, I did my hishtadlus, it didn't work, now give me an unconditional bracha. So I was so excited to call those rebbeim back a month later after I got rid of every single pair of pants in my wardrobe and to tell them, I did what you said and it didn't work, now come on, give me an unconditional bracha. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I was never able to make that call because that was the month that Hashem blessed me to conceive my Jacob. And 9 months from that day was the Brit Milah of my firstborn son. My entire life has been this journey. People think that Gali, the whole story about Gali's miracle and her nace, which I'm going to share with you, is the main defining Charlene story. It is totally in the back of one of the volumes of my books. It's not even at the forefront. So before we begin the story, I just want to say that whatever you are all struggling with, and there's 122 holy and beautiful neshamas over here, every single one of us is being challenged in some way with this pandemic and with life. Whether you're struggling with infertility, whether you're struggling with seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, whether it's a financial worry, whether it's crippling anxiety, whether it's the loss of a loved one, whether it's just grief, we are all in this together. Now, I just recently posted something on my Instagram that was so well received. There's a saying that we're not all in the same boat. We're actually in our own boats sailing through the same storm. So that's exactly what this is all about. We're all in this together, but how we choose to find Hashem and how we choose to come closer to Hashem, that's all our own individual boat. Now, Chazal tell us that every single time Hashem performs a miracle for someone, he attaches a spiritual price tag to the nace. The more amazing the nace, the more expensive the miracle. But the more insignificant the miracle, the cheaper the price tag. My miracle has the most humongous price tag attached to it. Now, what do we do when Hashem performs this nace for us? How do we pay for that? We do something called Persume Nisa. Every time we are mefarsem a nace, we are essentially regaining all those zechuyot that we used up to pay for that miracle. And that is why I'm so excited to share with you the story about my daughter Gali in my little humble attempt to reclaim as many zechuyot as I can, all those that we used to pay for her amazing miracle. My story takes place July 26, 2010. The Hebrew date was Tu B'Av, the 15th day of Av. And we know that the 15th day of Av is a very holy day. Jonathan, who is now Baruch Hashem retired and dedicated his life to spearheading the Great Neck Hatzalah division, he at the time was still trading in the stock market. Being the CEO of a hedge fund, 3 to 4 p.m. was an extremely crucial time in our life. If he wasn't at his desk from 3 to 4 p.m., it was not good. That was the closing bell. It's the final hour of the trading day, and it would determine how his P&L closes for the day. We woke up one morning, Monday morning, July 26, 2010, after I had been miraculously blessed with 4 delicious kids, back to back, with no treatment, no needles, no medication, no IVF, no IUI, no surrogate, no adoption. Pure gifts from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hodul Hashem. We live in Miami a portion of the year, and we had just relocated to Miami to spend the summer months down in Miami. Now, being away from our family for the entire duration of the summer takes its toll on the grandparents. So we have a little minhag. What we like to do is every Shabbat, we fly down a different set of parents. One Shabbat, my parents join us. One Shabbat, my in-laws come with us. The world has it a little bit wrong. They think that we're just the greatest kids in the world. It's actually very, very selfish. Free babysitting, free cooking, free cleaning, all hands on deck. I hope they're not watching this now, because then my secret will be spoiled. But it is truly a selfish motive. We bring them down for our sake, but it is wonderful to have them. That Shabbat happened to be the Shabbat that we had flown down, my mother, my father, and my younger brother. I remember waking up one morning and I was exhausted, but it was such a happy exhaustion. It was the exhaustion of having a 6-year-old sleep with his leg in my rib, a 4-year-old on my face, a toddler by my side, and a newborn being nursing through the night. And I was so exhausted in my small 3-bedroom apartment in Miami. And, you know, after downsizing, we're in this 3-floor house in Great Neck the whole year. And then suddenly we downsized to this apartment in Miami. And it's so wonderful, but it's also a little bit suffocating at times. But it was such a wonderful suffocation. I can't explain it. And I opened my eyes, so exhausted. And I see my husband standing by the balcony in my bedroom. And he looks at me and he says, "Sweetie, you gotta come and see this." And I said, "I'm so tired. I can't get out of bed right now. Please just let me sleep a little bit longer." He said, "You have to come and see what I see." He drags me out of bed. And now at this time, I should just break down my children's ages for you, so you know how we went from a quiet, almost haunted, eerie house into this amazingly loud, happy circus. Chazdei Hashem. Jacob was 6, Zachary was 4, Gali was 2, and Eliza was only 3 weeks old when we moved down to Miami. It was crazy. The happiest crazy that exists. Jonathan says, "Come, look what I see. See what I see." And I drag my exhausted body over to the window, into the balcony, and I see the most magnificent cobalt blue sky I've ever seen. We always joke that Miami skies are always beautiful. This was something a little different. This was almost like a painting, like a postcard. So Jonathan looks at me and says, "I really want to treat the kids to something really extra special today. You see the older boys, Jacob and Zachary, they're 6 and they're 4, and they're seeing you constantly with the girls, and you're nursing round the clock. And although your parents are here with us, I want the boys to feel like mommy's back. What do you say we go boating, we go wave running, we have a really amazing time with the kids, with the boys, leave the girls behind, and then we'll just celebrate." And the fact that it was Tu B'Av was even more a reason to celebrate. So I said, "You know what? Perfect plan." But Jonathan, being in the stock market at the time, knew he has to be back at his desk by 3 p.m. Dare he not miss that final hour of the trading day. So Jonathan called the reservation stand for the wave runners, and they told us to be there 2 p.m. sharp. So we decided we're going to go on our way. We're gonna head towards the beach. We left Gali asleep on a lounge chair with my housekeeper by the pool. Now, the building that I live in, for those familiar with Miami Beach, we're in 47th and Collins, the blue and green diamonds. We're in the green diamond. And our building is totally deserted in the summer months because it's not a hotel, it's an apartment complex. And Miami in the summer is scorching hot. Nobody really moves down to Miami. We're the weird ones. Everybody usually moves away from Miami, but we're always there the entire 8-9 weeks of the summer. So Jonathan said, as long as I'm back at my desk by 3 p.m., we'll go do everything. We'll go do boating, we'll go wave running. We'll make it a really special day. Again, man plans, God laughs. But man plans, Hashem plans better. By the time we were beginning to leave the pool area, I saw Gali sound asleep by the pool. So my housekeeper, Christina, said to me, listen, there's no way she's waking up for the next 2 hours. Leave her asleep, go. I'll stay with her. When you finish your day at the beach, come back, wake her up. We'll get pizza and we'll have fun. And my mom, listening on, said, and it's certainly too hot for me to leave Eliza outdoors. So I'm going to take Eliza upstairs, keep her in a nice air-conditioned apartment. She's only 3 weeks old. You go. Make it a boys' bonding trip. So I looked at my father, my brother, my husband, my 2 boys. And I said, guys, we're having a boys' bonding. We left the pool area, went towards the beach. And for reasons that I can now only explain to everybody as Yad Hashem, we kept bumping into little delays that Hashem just sweetly planted along the way. For example, one of the workers that would work at the wave runner stand never showed up to work that day. So because of his absence, we met a delay. And they informed us that everyone's reservations are being pushed back 15, 20 minutes, so just be patient. So I see my husband looking at his watch and thinking, oh boy, gotta be back by 3 o'clock. I kept saying, don't worry, you'll be back by 3. We finally went on the wave runners. We did our boating, we did our wave running. At the tail end of our wave running excursion, one of the jet skis broke down, which caused a further delay. As we start walking back towards the shore, my husband looks at his watch and he sees, oh no, it's 3:30. I'm late, I gotta go. The market's closing, I have so many positions. I'm gonna run. Now, my husband has been in Hatzalah now almost, Baruch Hashem, 30 years. For the time of my story, he was in Hatzalah for 20 years. I claim he has something called bionic hearing. It's a sort of superpower. It's some sort of special gift that Hashem grants these Hatzalah heroes. But as we finished beaching and we were walking towards the pool, my husband goes into Hatzalah mode and he says, sweetie, although it's so late, I know I'm not going to make it back at my desk, but do you hear screaming from a distance? And I said, no, I don't hear anything. Now, fun fact about me, I have the worst reflexes known to man. And Jonathan, being superhero, has the sharpest, quickest reflexes, which I firmly believe is a major reason why Hashem chose us to be Zivugim. I have seen my children tumble down the stairs before, and I become so paralyzed and struck with fear and worry that instead of running over to them like a normal human being and just putting my hand out and catching them, I'm standing there screaming, oh my gosh, Hashem, help me. And my husband once watched this and he said, you would be really, really bad in Hatzalah. And I said, I know, I will never join Hatzalah, I promise. But Jonathan, having this incredible talent, gift of being able to hear emergencies from far away, suddenly goes into Hatzalah mode. And he says, sweetie, I know I'm not going to make it to my desk. I know I'm late, but I hear an emergency. I hear someone screaming for help. Let me go and see where it's coming from. I got this butterfly in my stomach feeling, and not the good kind. And I thought to myself, what could be the commotion coming from the vicinity of our building? But Jonathan begins to walk towards our building, picking up the speed. So I have my Jacob and I have my Zachary, And I'm walking a little bit faster with my father and my brother. And I'm thinking to myself, what could be the problem? What could be wrong? And Jonathan is just tunnel vision going. He's like, there's an emergency. Somebody needs me. Somebody needs me. We all approach the pool at the exact same moment. And we see a man standing at the middle of the pool. His back is facing us. And he's screaming for help. Somebody call 911. Somebody call 911. And we see from where we're standing that he's holding the dead body of a little girl. My heart begins to race. And I think to myself, why does that child look so familiar? I can see from where I'm standing that she's completely gone. There's no pulse. You can see her completely like a ragged doll. She's blue head to toe. Her eyes are open, staring up at Shamayim. She's gone. And I keep thinking to myself, why does she look so familiar? My husband screams to the man, I'm a medic, I'm an EMT, I can help you. And this man begins to turn around in slow motion, holding this dead body of a little girl, a very cute girl. And right then I quickly look to see where my daughter Gali is asleep, because something in my gut just doesn't feel right. And I look to see where Gali is, where I left her on a lounge chair with her favorite blankie and an umbrella overhead with my housekeeper next to her with a stack of magazines. And I look and I see Gali is not there, but my housekeeper is sound asleep. In what I can only describe as complete Gehenna. My reality, my life unfolds when I realize this man standing in the middle of the pool is holding the dead body of my child. My children didn't come easy to me by any stretch of the imagination. Tens of thousands of tears and tefillot for each child went up to Shamayim in order for Hashem to grant me my family. And now I'm standing there holding my breath, watching my daughter return to her creator. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. You would think I'm used to this by now. 6,000 times I've said this story. For the rest of my life, I will not forget the way my daughter looked. And I wish not upon any member of Klal Yisrael to have to see that. I took one for the whole team. No one else should have to see that. She was blue. Her nails, the tips of her nails were purple. Till this day, almost 10 years later, every single time I close my eyes, I have a flashback. I'm snapped back to that image of her being pulled out of the water completely blue with the tips of her nails purple. Be'ezrat Hashem, when Mashiach comes, which is very, very soon, I promise, I will be healed. But until then, this is part of the package, and I'm so grateful. The man turns around and he's holding Gali's body. And my husband screams to him, she's my daughter! She's my daughter! And Jonathan grabs Gali from his arms and he lays her on the ground and he begins to pump CPR into her little 2-year-old body, screaming at the top of his lungs, Gali, don't you dare leave daddy! I think I'm extra emotional today because there is a Hatzalathon going on, a worldwide Hatzalathon, and so many beautiful donations are coming in from all around the world. And my daughter just made an $18 donation from her allowance without telling any of us. And she wrote, to my hero daddy Q100, thank you for saving my life. So I just saw that right before I logged on, so excuse this. My husband is doing CPR and he's pumping into her body, screaming, don't you dare leave daddy! Don't you dare leave daddy! And I'm standing there paralyzed. How am I going to live? How am I going to wake up tomorrow if I have to bury this child? If someone had come to me right then and said, Charlene, I'm going to make you a deal. Give me your right arm and I will see to it that your daughter lives. As a mother who struggled for years with infertility, I wouldn't give one arm. I would give both. I would give my heart. I would give my kidneys. I would give every organ. That's not what Hashem wanted. As I'm watching Jonathan pump CPR into her body, all of a sudden, this pasuk from Tehillim begins flashing in my mind like a neon banner. Karati b'chol lev anini Hashem chukecha etzora. It's my favorite pasuk in all of Tehillim. It's the same pasuk we say at the very end of Ne'ilah. Hashem sent me a message, and I recognized where this was coming from. It's from Perek Kuf Yutet, 119 in Tehillim. 119 is the gematria of Gali's full name, Avigail Chana. When Gali was born, she was born on Shavuot, so we are approaching, Bezrat Hashem, the 10-year anniversary of her nes and her bat mitzvah. When Gali was born, I had nothing with me in the hospital except my Tehillim, my tear-soaked and torn Tehillim. And I figured I'm going to say as many prakim as I can. And one of the prakim that I figured, I said, let me figure out the gematria of her name. And I recognized it was 119. And I turned to that and I realized, of course, it's the longest parak in all of Tehillim. It's the one that's all the portion of Aleph and then Bet and then Gimel all the way through. I took upon myself, Bli Neder, to say this parak every day for the rest of my life as a thank you to Hashem for her life, for giving me a daughter after my 2 sons. So I recognized this message loud and clear. Karati b'chol lev. I cried out with all my heart. Aneni Hashem. Answer me, Hashem. Chukecha etzora. I will keep your ways. I will keep your ways. And right then and there, watching Jonathan do CPR, watching the crowd grow, watching my mother come down and screaming and crying, and my father shouting Shema Yisrael, and my sons are vomiting from anxiety around me. Right then, I realized I'm not keeping your ways, Borei Olam. I'm keeping my ways. And I physically looked at my body and I took a personal self-assessment. My arms were bare. My thick, beautiful, long, golden hair is out on display for the world. Now, I had already conquered pants, so I was wearing a bathing suit with a little mini skirt over it to show Hashem, I'm doing skirts. But everything else, totally my way, not his way. Without a moment's hesitation, I knew exactly what Hashem was calling out for me. Yeah. I looked around and I found a blue pashmina shawl just hanging over a chair. Who has a pashmina shawl in July? I reached for the shawl and I raised up my arm and I started screaming and sobbing. And I took this shawl and I began to wrap it over my hair. I took a towel, threw it over my shoulders, symbolizing the very, very last day of my old life and the brand new life that I had just promised Hashem, le'olam va'ed. I promised Hashem that regardless of her outcome, this belongs to you. It's belonged to you for 10 years. I've just been too lazy and too selfish to give it to you, but Hashem, this is for you. As I'm wrapping my hair, my husband is doing CPR on her, 5 feet away from me, looks over at me, recognizes right away what I just took upon myself. And he knows that he was a big reason why I had not yet taken this mitzvah upon myself. You see, with every child that I conceived naturally, With every child that I gave birth to naturally, I begged Jonathan, I said, please, let me do something more. Let me cover up. Let me give up my hair, something. I have so much hakarat tov to Hashem. We didn't get this family for nothing. And my husband said, I agree, but it's just, I'm not there yet. We're not there yet. And I said, okay, Shalom Bayit comes first, okay. And I kept putting it on the back burner. July 26, 2010, that was the day Hashem chose for me to prioritize, for me to take that off the back burner and to bring it front and center. My husband looks over at me, recognizes what I just took upon myself, and he knows that he was one of the reasons that I had not yet taken these things upon myself. And right then, as he's watching me struggle to tuck my hair in and to tuck, and I'm screaming and I'm crying and I'm covering and I'm tucking, he puts Bali's body down, he looks up at Shamayim, and he begins davening with kavana I had never seen a human being daven with before in my life. He begins to pray to Hashem with so much strength. And I'm rapping and rapping and rapping. He says, Amin, to my bracha Shechianu. I finally finished sticking that last strand of golden hair into that shawl. And he finishes his tefillah with Hashem. He gets back to Gali's body and he puts his fingers on her throat and he begins to scream, I found the pulse! I found the pulse! I found the pulse! He must have said it 100 times. At this point, the stretcher had already approached and it was waiting, and Jonathan and Gali went into the ambulance. I followed behind via police escort. I have no idea how I physically got to the hospital. The next few hours of my life are a complete blur. It's almost like there was like an episode of my life that's missing from the series, because I have no idea what happened in those few hours. All I know is that I made it to the hospital. I was in a police car. They had closed off Collins Avenue. An ambulance was speeding 100 miles per hour. We were following. It was a complete blur. I get into the hospital and I see my husband, my tough Superman, my CEO. 10 years I was married at the time. I had never once seen Jonathan shed a single tear. I walk into the emergency room and I see Jonathan on the floor with his head buried in his hands, sobbing uncontrollably with a team of doctors behind him, patting him on his back, consoling him. That day he cried 10 years worth. And looking at this, I figured my life is over. We lost her. We must have had her in transit, but we lost her. He was crying tears of joy because it was at that moment that these doctors came in and told him, congratulations, Mr. Aminoff, you saved your daughter's life. However, and they put however in big, bold, italics, caps lock, underline. We don't want you to have very high expectations. You see, this is Florida. We're very used to children drowning. It's very common, unfortunately. And the pools are heated and it's the summer. And just don't have any expectations, because although she's alive, we don't have high hopes for her neurological state or her future. When my husband heard this, we knew we needed Rachamei Shamayim. We needed HaKadosh Baruch Hu to shine so strongly onto us. Worldwide Tehillim was launched in her zechut. Countless dollars were given to tzedakah in her zechut. And every single member of my family was instructed by Gedolei Hador to take upon themselves mitzvot, specifically in the area of tznius. We had her transferred to Miami Children's Hospital in Coral Gables. 8 excruciating hours later, 8 hours that aged me 80 years. I'm 38, and I always tell people, I'm like, but I actually feel like I've lived 87, 88 years worth of life. As we're waiting in the waiting room of Miami Children's Hospital in Coral Gables, we have my father, me, my husband, our security team, and the building management with some Chai Lifeline volunteers. Nobody can talk. It is complete and utter silence. It is a somber and heavy mood. We hear the ominous footsteps of these doctors approaching us. We were the only ones in that unit. And I had no more koach left in my body to stand up. We all spring to attention. We stand up. I can't even hold my head up. And these 6 top doctors who came in from all around to be on her case, these 6 doctors walk into our room and they look at me and my husband and they say, Mr. and Mrs. Aminoff, we're doctors. We're the top of our field, we're the head of our league. We're taught from the moment we enter medical school that everything about medicine comes down to one thing. It comes down to science. We do research. We look at statistics. We need charts. We leave nothing to chance. We don't believe in coincidence. However, we have run your daughter's tests 12 times because we cannot make sense of why she's alive, let alone perfect. And he lights up the wall with all of her scans and he points to the scan and he says, Mrs. Aminoff, this is the MRI, this is the image of her brain. I have children on this very floor who were underwater in a heated pool for a minute or less, and lo aleinu, they have permanent brain damage. Your daughter was clinically dead for 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Not a trace of brain damage. Yodul Hashem. He lights up the other wall with the rest of her scans. He says, this is the image of her lungs. I have a child undergoing the same test in the same room as your daughter. She was playing in a bathtub with her sibling and she fell over 45 seconds or about, and she's aspirated substantial amounts of water into her lungs. Your daughter's lungs are clear, perfect. He holds up a binder with all of her blood work, tens of hundreds of maybe thousands of pages of charts and blood work and retesting the blood work and more. And he says, Mrs. Zama, this is her binder. We're so dumbfounded by her MRIs, CAT scans, all the imaging that we figure clearly her blood will give us some answers. Nothing. Perfect. No blood gas, no infection, no nothing. It's almost as if nothing happened. So he looks at me and my husband and he says, so since we can't make sense of this from a medical perspective, we are chalking this one up to God. Your daughter is a miracle. Until this day, 10 years later, if you go into Miami Children's Hospital and you find Gali Aminoff, Avigal Chana Aminoff's file, her name says Avigal Chana Aminoff, and in parentheses, they've named her the Little Miracle of Miami Beach, the Little Mermaid. At this point, we recognize that Hashem had just performed a huge, huge niece for our family. So I muster up the courage to ask these brilliant doctors. So I looked at the head doctor, the one who's doing all the speaking, and I say, Dr. Meyer, are you Jewish? And he looks a little confused by my question, a bit of a bizarre question to be asked at such a time. But he says, yeah. I said, well, pointing at my massive blue pashmina on my head, I said, I think I know what it is. Do you believe in God? So he stopped for a second, like it was a very, very profound question. He thought for a second, he said, I don't know what I believed until now. But I'm gonna go home and tell my wife and kids that a 2-year-old little girl by the nickname of Gali was able to prove God to me. So To answer you, Mrs. Aminoff, yes, I now believe in God. And right then I stopped and I thought to myself, if this whole nightmare were for nothing else, at least I can claim that my 2-year-old daughter was able to turn these grown men to choser b'tshuva, to recognize Hashem and to come closer to Hashem. A very, very fun fact at this point that I don't ever discuss or talk about. Dr. Meyer has become a totally Torah observant Jew as a result of that incident. We were zochet to sponsor his first set of tefillin, and we made sure that mezuzot were put up on his doors of his home in Boston. So Gali's story really does stretch much farther than people know. The doctors give us a moment to process, and they say to us, in theory, technically, she's free to go, but 3 o'clock in the morning, we need to keep her overnight for observation. And in the morning when the doctor comes and does the rounds, as soon as he checks on her and she's fine, she's free to go. Take your miracle and enjoy. And they leave. One by one, everybody starts to exit the room. The security team, my father, the High Lifeline volunteers, the building management. And then suddenly, face to face with my husband, my hero. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you properly thank the man who saved your daughter's life? How do you thank the man who not only brought your daughter into this world once, but he brought her into this world twice? So I say to him, Jonathan, I have so much I have to tell you. He says, no, I have so much I have to tell you. Well, I said, well, I have some pretty crazy confessions that I have to make, and I think you want me to go first because maybe you'll forget about them sooner. So he looked at me and he said, oh my God, honey, what did you do? I said, okay. Well, when I saw you doing CPR on Gali, I knew that our life, as we know it, is over. But I began to make some promises to Hashem. And I just want you to know that things are going to be a little different around here, and I hope you're okay with everything. But I made some promises, and I'm planning on keeping them 110%. So hope you're on board, and I hope you're okay, because I kind of included you in everything. So we have this theme in our home. It's called Be a Man of Your Word. So he looked at me and he said, if you made a promise, you better be a man of your word. So I said, I'm so happy you just said that, okay? Because one, I'm no longer wearing any bathing suits because I'm now completely shomer negia. Number two, I'm not wearing any more bathing suits because I'm completely tsanua. Number two, I can no longer shake hands with your business partners because now I am completely shomer negia. Number three, everything I own, all my clothing is going to be either built up or tossed out. So disregard credit card charges for the lot because, you know, new wardrobe needed. Number four, you know the movie theater you're in the process of building in our home in Great Neck in the basement? Not going to get plugged into cable. And five, I'm covering my hair. So he thought about it for a second and he was trying to like process. He thought about it. He's like, you really took one for the team, huh? And he said, well, I have a few questions. Are you gonna like shave your head? And I was like, honey, we're Sephardi. That's not our minhag. We're not Hasidish. So I said, oh, okay, good. Good, because I don't know how to feel about that. I said, no, don't worry. Not our minhag. Okay, so another question. Super Bowl Sunday. No cable. Basements being built for that purpose, you know? So I said, you know, ladies, I know many of you will understand what I'm saying, but there comes a burst of bina. We're suddenly given this little burst of intuition that Hashem gives us the perfect words to say at the perfect moment to appease a situation. So right then, this burst of brilliance went off, and I said, Jonathan Aminoff, You are the senior partner in your firm. You and your partners are such hardworking individuals. It's not befitting for you to spend Super Bowl Sunday in a basement of someone's home. You all should go to the Super Bowl from now on. And you know what? While you're at it, I'll convince the wives. You guys should probably take the company jet, the corporate jet. I'll convince them. He was like, that is the best idea. You are so smart. Bina is really, really a real thing. And then he said, okay, so one more question. How am I going to break the news to my partners who aren't that observant? I really don't get it that my wife can't shake their hand. It's a little weird. So, you know, that Bina that I was telling you about, that was still there. So I told him, I said, Jonathan, what do you mean? You're the boss. You call the shots. Why don't you have your secretary send a little inter-office memo? Charlene found God. Therefore, she can no longer touch members of the opposite sex. So he was like, that is so ridiculous. It's perfect. And so Priscilla sent an inter-office memo to all his employees and all of his partners. Charlene found God, and as such, she will not be allowed to touch members of the opposite sex. And so this day, 10 years later, whenever we see them at some corporate event or some party or something, although Baruch Hashem, my husband is retired, we're still in touch with him. We still go to the corporate events and to the parties. And they wave to me from 60 miles away, like, hi, air kisses. I said, yes, air kisses is perfectly allowed. But then my husband told me, he said, well, I have a confession of my own. I've been doing this for 20 years. I know the moment I touch a patient, whether I'm going to get them back or not. It's a Hatzalah thing. We all do. We all know. Honey, I have never, ever touched a patient so far dead like Gali. She was gone. She was not coming back. And I knew that. As I was doing CPR on her, to be very honest, I was doing CPR for show. I thought to myself, Hashem, how am I going to live with the guilt of her death on my shoulders for the rest of my life? Please, Hashem, I'm going to fake it till I make it. I know that I'm not getting her back. Right then, as I was this close to giving up and this close to throwing in the towel, you storm in like a tornado. And I see you reaching for that shawl and I'm thinking, yes, Hashem, make her do what I think she's about to do because I'm the reason she's been pushing this off. My hands are finite. They've met their limit. This is all they can accomplish. I'm not getting her back on my own. I need all the help I can get. Please, Hashem, make her do what I believe she's about to do. And he said, right then, he started to scream, Shechianu. And he said, you were shaking. And I was watching you shake, and I thought to myself, Hashem, I'm not going to let my wife be the only one to give you this korban. I'll give you a korban too. I stopped and I said, Hashem, for 20 years, I gave you Hatzalah. I never once asked for anything in return. I'm cashing it in. I'm cashing it all in. Hashem, I can't get her back, but maybe my wife can. What she's about to take upon herself, Hashem, that's not finite. That's limitless. Please, because of my wife, give her back to me. And the moment you finished wrapping and you stuck that last strand of hair in that shawl, I said Amen to your bracha. And I finally feel her. And I feel the sweetest feeling, the sweetest little boom, 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 boom. Honey, we got her back. I found the pulse. But you're such a drama queen. All I said is that I'm going to be in Hatzalah until I'm 58 years old. Always so dramatic with everything. It's just the way we are. Now, I had to drive back from Coral Gables all the way to Miami Beach. I had to de-traumatize an entire family, respond to thousands of calls and texts and concerns and worries. I had to nurse an exclusively nursing baby. I had so much going on, and I stayed on the phone with Jonathan the entire drive back. It was maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning at this point. I stayed on the phone with him all the way until I got into my building. As soon as I got into the building, I told him, I said, Jonathan, listen to me carefully. I'm about to get into the elevator. And hold on. I have very small ears, so AirPods don't work on me. If anyone has a solution to my dilemma, please message me privately. Can you guys hear me? As soon as I got into the building, I said to my husband, I said, I'm gonna lose you. Promise me one thing. You'll call me if something bad happens. He said, don't say these things. What do you mean I'm gonna call you if something bad happens? She's fine, the doctors flew back, everyone's gone, she's sleeping, she's resting, I'm exhausted, you're a wreck, go home, come back in the morning and bring me clothing and underwear. I said, okay. I get into my apartment. I felt, by the time I got into my bed and I closed my eyes, it was already broad daylight out, but I slept with my cell phone in my hand under my pillow. And I finally closed my eyes, and all of a sudden, my cell phone rings, and I look and I see it's my husband. My heart sinks because I know he's not calling me unless something bad happens. So I picked up the phone and I'm screaming, what's wrong? What happened? Oh my gosh, Jonathan, what's going on? He says, shh, sweetie, I need you to just hear me out, okay? I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit worried because I think it might be her heart, her brain, her heart. I don't know what's going on, but it's probably her brain. And I said, what do you mean? What's going on? What about her brain? Tell me what's going on. He said, shh, just hear me out, okay? She's sitting up and she wants to color. So the nurses bring in some crayons and I say to her, Gali, take the blue one. And she takes the green one. And then I say, Gali, take the red one. And then she takes the yellow one. Honey, it's her brain, right? So I said, you fool. She's 2 years old. She doesn't know her colors yet. So he said, oh, okay. You're right. I'm so sorry. My bad. Her heart's fine. Her brain is fine. Go. Good night. Love you. Bye. Talk to you later. And he hangs up. And I have to share that story with everyone just to show you how involved he is with the kids. Baruch Hashem, an amazing man and an amazing husband, father, son, provider, but nothing clueless about the children and where they're holding. It's okay. We're going to keep him. Now, at that moment, my knees were wobbling and my heart was racing out of my body for the next hour or two. Of course, I did not go back to sleep, but Gali fell into the pool on a Monday. Gali was released from the hospital on Tuesday. Little Miss Gali was back in the pool on Wednesday with all 8 of the blue and green diamond security guards around her. The building threw her a very lavish welcome home party, AKA, please don't sue us. At that party, the man who found her at the bottom of the pool approached us and he began to tell us his version of the story. And he said to us, wow, your daughter's a miracle. And we said, we know, and thank you for everything. And he said, no, don't thank me. She's a miracle. I wasn't even supposed to be in the pool that day. And I look at my husband and I think, like, what's going on? Now this building that threw her this fancy party, which by the way, the theme of her party was The Little Mermaid. They thought it was brilliantly witty. I thought it was way too soon and too insensitive. Go figure. But at her Little Mermaid themed party at the Diamonds, Richard Mariansky, he's a 67-year-old goy. He's a traveling CEO. And the photographers were all there waiting and they were trying to capture all these beautiful moments. And you know, when he first met Jonathan, they jump on each other and they're hugging and everything. Funny story is he looks at me. He's a guy, he doesn't know any better. He looks at me after hugging Jonathan with his arms wide open to hug me. And all of a sudden I remember, I'm like, oh, I'm showing again now. I can't hug him. And I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to rationalize and I'm trying to justify, like, if I do hug him, I'm sure Hashem would understand. You know, he's saved my daughter's life after all. But then I keep thinking like, be a man of your word, be a man of your word. So he's standing there with his arms wide open, and the photographers are all waiting. It's like, they're like, what's going on? Come on, lady, hurry up. I want to take a picture. And I'm thinking like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? So I give my husband this look, like we have this eye language, like help, SOS. So I give my husband a look, and my husband is like, I got it, like, yeah. So I'm like, Jonathan, hug him again. So Jonathan like looks at him like, so he hugs Richard again, and Jonathan whispers in his ear, she's crazy. She has PTSD, and you trigger really harsh memories for her, so she can't touch you. And Richard's like, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that must be really hard. Okay, I understand. So it was a close call. But besides, the world thinks I'm a little bit crazy because between my husband's firm thinking that I found God and Richard thinking that I'm still struggling with PTSD 10 years later and I can't touch him, dealing with some interesting rumors being said about me, but that's totally okay. And at that moment, Richard begins to tell us that he wasn't even meant to be in the pool that day. He wasn't meant to be in the building at that hour. Hashem is amazing. Richard is a traveling CEO, and he was in town only for a meeting with investors. The investors missed their connecting flight. And as Richard was standing by his balcony having his morning cup of coffee, his secretary called him and said, Richard, don't bother heading to the office, to the conference room now. The investors missed their connecting flight. They're jumping on the next flight. I'll let you know when to come into office. But in the meantime, do some errands, get your workout in. I'll call you when it's time to come in. And as Richard got this phone call, he was standing by his balcony and he says to me, quote, the craziest thing was I was standing by my balcony and I noticed the most magnificent cobalt blue sky I've ever seen. And I thought to myself, wow, my goodness, that sky looks gorgeous. What a pity to waste this day indoors. I'm gonna go swim laps. I'm gonna go into the pool. It was his first time in the pool. Richard finished swimming laps at the deep end on the west side. And as he began to climb out of the ladder that's positioned against the wall, he remembered that a few days prior, as he was playing tennis, he hurt his leg, some muscle, some ligament, something. And as he began to climb up that ladder, his leg started to bother him and he thought to himself, better safe than sorry. Instead of continuing to climb out of the ladder that's positioned against the wall, I'm going to walk towards the shallow end and take the steps so it's less pressure on my leg. But for some unbelievable reason, otherwise known as HaKadosh Baruch Hu's grace and kindness, Richard didn't walk from the west side of the deep end to the west side of the shallow end. Hashem made Richard want to prolong his time in that pool because of how spectacular that sky looked. So Richard walked diagonally from the west side of the deep end to the east side of the shallow end, which is where he found a little ball rolled up at the bottom of the pool, and he picked her up and he realized, it's my daughter. Every element of Richard's story is a miracle. Oftentimes, we think that something that's happening to us is bad. There's no such thing as bad. There's good and there's seemingly bad. I wonder if those two investors who missed their flight know how they impacted my life. I wonder if Richard, playing tennis a few days earlier and hurt his leg, probably complained about it, if only he knew that that irritation led to my daughter's survival. Every single one of us has situations in our lives where at the time it looks bad. But what we must believe as Jews is that there is no such thing as bad. Gam zu l'tova. Everything is l'tova. When and how we are privy to seeing that, that's entirely up to Hashem. in this world, we have no answers. But Be'ezrat Hashem, very soon when Mashiach comes, and that's going to be the real world, the world of Emet, the permanent world, in that world, we will have no questions. We stayed in Miami a couple of weeks after her drowning, and we finally moved back to New York. We had a big Seudat Hoda'ah for her. At her Seudat Hoda'ah, countless Rabbeim, Tzaddikim, Gedolim, all gathered at my home, and they asked her to speak. And she spoke, and she was almost 3 years old at this time. This child is Baruch Hashem, Bli Ayin Hara, right beyond her years. And she begins to speak. And she says, I don't want to go too over time. So are we okay with timing? Just give me a hands up with time. We're okay? Perfect, okay. So my daughter begins to speak. And the Rebbeim say to her, Gali, what happened to you? And she starts to talk like a no big deal in third person. Well, Gali want to go get bucket. Gali fall. Gali go down, down, down. Gali sleep on the floor. Then the man grabbed me. Daddy take me. Daddy do ouchie, ouchie, kissy, kissy. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. What is happening? What is happening? Why does she know this? Why does she know this? Look at my husband. I'm like, did you tell her? He says, no, I thought you told her. I said, no. We're looking around like, who told her? Now, this was an event of just my immediate family. And the Rebbeim look at me and they say, no, she saw. And I'm thinking, like, no, no, no. She couldn't see. She was unconscious. So they say, she saw. And I'm like, why is that so cryptic? What does that mean, she saw? And then the Biala Rebbe from Bnei Brak, who has his own bedroom in my home, he leans over to my husband and he says, she had died. Her body had left her neshama. So she had the out-of-body experience. So she's telling you what she saw from hovering over. She was hovering and she saw everything that happened to you on earth. And right then, as I heard this, a very, very unglamorous fact about me is that when I get highly anxious, I vomit. And of course, I began to vomit in front of all these tzaddikim on my dining room table. Finally, as I get my act together, Gali is continuing to speak and she says, well, Daddy doing ouchie, ouchie, kissy, kissy. And then Mommy, take the blue patu. Patu in Farsi means blankie. Mommy, take the blue patu. And she put on her head. And then, boom, Gali wakes up. Tzaddikim looking around and they're looking at each other and they're looking at me and they're saying, no, at mevina. And I was so fog. A heavy fog was over me. I couldn't understand what was happening. I said, no, ani lo mevina. I don't understand. They said, your daughter just said at what point your teshuvah was accepted and at what point Hashem gave her back to you. It was your hair and it was your body. So you can't let the story end here. You have to pay it forward via hair and body. And right then and there, they took out this notepad and they passed it around my dining room table, and all these rebbeim scribbled a little bracha. And right then and there, they founded a company called Gali's Couture Wigs, which is my biggest pride and joy. It is my shtetl company that we created at her Seudah, very much against my will because I was Baruch Hashem, a very content stay-at-home mom, shop-at-home mom, brunch-at-home mom. And I'm suddenly thrust into this workforce. And Jonathan is waving at me from across the dining room table. And he's like, welcome to the workforce, honey. Right then and there, they founded this company called Gali's Couture Wigs. And Hodul Hashem, we have been zocheh to adorn the heads of over, I believe the number now, forgive me if I'm off by a little bit, over 14,000 women have started covering their hair as a result of our story and are now wearing Gali's Couture Wigs. Baruch Hashem, it's not for the parnasa. It is for the mitzvah. I prefer my paycheck in Olam Haba anyway, but because of that, it just became an avenue through which we continue to be in the first and our nays. And since it's not really a business in that term, we're only open 2 half days a week. So I kept telling the tzaddikim, I kept saying, "Slicha, ani lo ovedet, ani lo ovedet." And they looked at me like, "Achshav at ovedet." Well, now you're going to work. In keeping with my ani lo ovedet, we really are only open 2 half days a week. But the good thing that came out of that is that we decided to become an in-network provider, and we give our wigs completely for free to women struggling with any type of medically induced hair loss, whether it's low alinu chemo or alopecia. We go directly to their insurance, we bill their insurance, and we gift the women the wigs. So that for me is like a cherry on top of this already delicious Sunday that Hashem granted me. So all the behind the scene nisim, the broken jet ski, the worker that never showed up to the wave understand. These 2 elements caused Jonathan to be delayed and caused him not to be on the 18th floor of the Green Diamond at the most crucial moment of our lives, because it was only Jonathan that knew how to perform CPR on her body. Richard Mariansky, every part, every little nuance, a miracle. The fact that his secretary called him and said not to go into the office. The fact that the investors that he was in town for missed their connecting flight. The fact that he hurt his leg playing tennis, which caused him to walk out of the shallow end. The fact that Hashem, in his unbelievable wisdom and kindness, made sure to paint that blue sky in such a gorgeous shade that it would want us to be outdoors. The same sky that Richard saw that pushed him outdoors was the same sky we saw that pushed Jonathan to want to go wave running. Hashem makes no mistake. The final kicker is that when Gali was born, she was born with a terrible case of sleep apnea. She had these 2 horrendous, awful tonsils, and she got strep after strep after strep after strep. She was becoming resistant to all antibiotics. So her 5th case of strep occurred right before we moved down to Miami for the summer, and I was huge and pregnant with Eliza. And my doctor says to me, "Charlene, enough is enough. Her tonsils have got to go." And I said, "But wait, I'm giving birth soon, and we're moving down to Miami. Please, don't make me do the surgery now. As soon as we move back in the fall time, I will do her surgery then. Please let me push it off." He said, "Listen to me carefully. She's not thriving. She's not growing. She is becoming resistant to antibiotics. She needs her tonsils out." I begged him. I said, "Please, let me do the surgery later on, after the summer." He finally agreed because he knows that can be very, very annoying. And after a while, fast forward, we were waiting in the waiting room of St. Francis Hospital, waiting for the ENT and the anesthesiologist and my pediatrician to come out the day of her surgery. She's having her tonsils and adenoids removed. The doors open, the doctors come out, and they look at me and they say, "She is a miracle." And I look at Jonathan and I'm like, "No, come on, tell us something we don't know already. This is already, we know, Baruch Hashem, Chazeh Hashem, she's a miracle." So the ENT looks at me and like, "No, I don't think you know. She's really a miracle." The anesthesiologist begins to speak. He says, "This is Aminoff. I intubate her, and I see the most horrendous tonsils I've ever seen in all my years. Her tonsils were so poor. The moment I intubate her, her tonsils locked up. They expanded and they blocked her airway, preventing any water or oxygen from going down or coming up. That's not all. As soon as her tonsils are blocking her airway, you would think her oxygen levels are dropping. But no. Nurses alert us to the pulse oximeter, and we see this child's oxygen levels are perfect, which means in scientific, in layman's terms, had we listened to them and removed her tonsils before Miami, there's no possible way that she would have survived being without oxygen for 3 minutes and 10 seconds, because Hashem knew in his amazing wisdom to give her these horrible tonsils from the day she was born, so that she would be training her body for 2.5 years to survive on low levels of oxygen. Final chapter in my book of Nisim. Had we removed her tonsils within 24 hours, she reverts to a normal breathing child, and there's no way, no scientific way that she would survive. So, we have seen nace after nace in this beautiful, magnificent miracle that Hashem has performed for us. But if we stop and pay attention to all the times that things looked like they were actually hurting us, when in reality they were benefiting us, it's a whole new way of looking at life, especially now with this pandemic that we're all in. Every single time Gali got strep, I clutched. I said, Hashem, how many times did this 2-year-old child get sick with fever and strep and antibiotics? Hashem, how many times? I clutched. And then I stopped for a second and I said, Hashem, I'm so sorry. All those times you gave her strep, it was a chesed. You were teaching her and training her to fight the biggest battle she'll ever need to fight in her life, Bezrat Hashem. Nothing that happens to us is a coincidence. Everything that happens to us is because Hashem wills it, and everything is litova. Again, in this world, we will not see the answers. We may not see the answers. I don't know why I was zoche to have my instant answer. Perhaps because Hashem knows I'm a big mouth, I'm a loud mouth, and I'm going to come and I'm going to share her story with women in South Africa and all across the world. Perhaps something beyond that. But what we must believe is that right now, with all that's going on, we have no answers. We must trust Hashem. It's okay to feel pain. It's okay to question what's going on around you. But be careful not to question Hashem's ways, because we aren't privy to that yet. As Hashem, soon when Mashiach comes, Hashem will reveal himself, and all of the truth of the Torah and of the world will be revealed to us. Like I said, in this world we have no answers, but in the world to come we will have no questions. Let that be your mantra. But the way my apartment in Miami looked the night Gali was brought home from the hospital is exactly the way my house in New York is going to look like when Mashiach comes. I had Techiyat HaMetim, and I know that we are all in this deep, dark galut together. But hang in there, because it's worth it, because Geula is so sweet. Hashem tells us, he gives us a small promise with humongous rewards, with returns on the investment. He asks us for a small thing. He says, my children, one of my favorite concepts in all of Judaism. Hashem says to us, if you open for me an opening the size of an eye of a needle, I will return to you gates that lead to the biggest simcha hall you've ever seen. Chariots will be able to ride through those gates. As my husband would say to his investors, that's a huge return on your investment, wouldn't you say? So what are we holding back? Why are we so comfortable serving Hashem on our terms? I will keep your ways. But are we always keeping Hashem's ways, or are we keeping our ways? 10 years, Hashem sent me wake-up calls, and I was so comfortable serving Hashem my way that I kept pressing snooze. No, Hashem, I'm not interested in that. Snooze. No, Hashem, I know what's right. I know what's wrong. I know it's better for me to take that on, but not there yet. Snooze. 10 years of being married. Countless wake-up calls being thrown my way. Countless times me countering with snooze. Until July 26, 2010, Hashem got so fed up with me, rightfully so. I'm a smart girl and know what's right. He sent me an alarm that was too loud to ignore. And that's when I had to wake up. Hashem came banging on my door and I could no longer sleep through that alarm. I couldn't press snooze. I had to get up and I had to wake up and serve Hashem the way he deserves to be served. I have a saying that has constructed my life. And I want you all to take this message, internalize it, and begin to live your lives with this line. In this day and age, Hashem doesn't want us to stress. He just wants us to stretch. Give Hashem your chudo shel machat tonight. Don't wait for that tragic wake-up call to come banging on your door, your own personal July 26, 2010. Don't wait for that. Give your chudo shel machat tonight. Whatever it is you're struggling with, Hashem knows. Hashem is your creator. He put that there for a reason. Overcome that challenge, that anxiety, that fear. Give Hashem a chudo shel machat. Say, Hashem, I'm in pain. I'm struggling. I'm suffering. I don't know what's going on around me. But I trust you. I trust you. And this, Hashem, this is my chudo shel machat. I will give you this. And I beg you, show me that you have me. It's so hard with everyone, with everything that's going on around us. Countless lives being lost, so much suffering. And that's coupled with the normal stresses of life, the struggles with emunah, the struggles with finances, the struggles with fertility, the struggles with shidduchim. It's a very, very heavy time. But the good news is that as of Lag BaOmer towards Shavuot, the pain stopped. The 24,000 students stopped dying. The light began to come in. That's why one of the symbols of Lag BaOmer is a bonfire, because light begins to dispel the darkness that we're all feeling. So what can you take away from this message, from tonight? How can you bring some nechama to your life while at the same time coming closer to Hashem in an attempt to bring more bracha into your life? Give Hashem a chudo shel machat. If you are struggling with a mitzvah, specifically in the area of tznius, give it in. Give it in. Say, Hashem, I'm doing this for you. I'm not doing this for me. Chutecha et zorah. I will keep your ways. The harder the mitzvah, the greater the reward. If you are struggling with keeping kosher, start from tonight. If you are struggling with Shabbat, start from this week. If you are struggling with interpersonal relationships, shalom bayit issues, if you haven't had a falling out with someone, if you haven't spoken to a loved one, a parent, if there's too much disrespect and too much time has elapsed, pick up the phone, apologize, forgive and forget. Ladies, all the tzaddikim are telling us right now that Hashem has shoved us into our homes. He's shut down our shuls, he's shut down our schools, he's shut down simcha halls, he's shut down everything for one reason. He wants us to turn to Hashem. He wants us to turn to him. Come closer to Hashem. No more delaying like I did. 10 years I waited. I didn't feel the need to climb out of my comfort zone until I had no choice. Please don't learn from my mistakes. please come out of your comfort zone from tonight. Give Hashem that mitzvah you've been pushing off. Now, there's one concept that speaks volumes to me, and I want so much to share this with you. And right now, during this pandemic, it has become so easy to kvetch and to complain and to call up your friend and say, I'm losing my mind. My husband's always in my face. My kids' Zooms are never ending. The food bill is through the roof. There's no money coming in. It is so easy for us to complain. But we're all put in masks. Perhaps Hashem wants us to stop clutching. Perhaps Hashem wants us to practice gratitude. Now, the concept of gratitude is something very, very meaningful for me for a number of reasons. My Hebrew name is Michal, and the gematria of Michal is 100. And 100 in Tehillim, which is my solace, my therapy, my survival kit. Perek 100 in Tehillim is Perek Kuf, Mizmor Latoda. I've always been very grateful, even through my trials and tribulations and through my trials and triumphs. What we know is that the more gratitude we show Hashem, the more Hashem gives us reasons to thank him. There is a bunch of gates leading up to Shamayim. The gate of Parnasa, the gate of Shidduch, the gate of Zera Shakayama, the gate of Refuah, the gate of gratitude. The gate of gratitude has a universal master key that can unlock all the locked and clogged gates. When Mashiach comes, Chazal teach us that all the korbanot will be annulled except for one korban, the korban toda. That is how meaningful gratitude is to Hashem. So what can be a chodosh al-machat for all of you from tonight in the realm of gratitude? It is a tefillah called Nishmat Kol Chai. It is something that I have been so blessed to be able to continue the legacy of Rebbetzin Kanievsky on my cute little Instagram page that has so many phenomenal friends. But we've started this thing called the Nishmat Army, because Nishmat Kol Chai is a tefillah that makes you focus on immense gratitude, even when sometimes you don't feel like being very grateful. But Hashem tells us, if you thank me when you should be clutching, I will deal with you with life and with light and with chesed when I should be dealing you with din and gevura. And let's face it, in this crazy day and age, we could all use a hefty dose of chesed and love from Hashem. So what is Nishmat Kol Chai? It's a tefillah found in the Shachrit Shel Shabbat. It begins with Nishmat Kol Chai and it goes all the way until the end of Yishtabach. There are two ways to finish the tefillah. One way to finish it is right before the bracha of Baruch Atah Hashem, the last line of Yishtabach. Or you can say Baruch Atah, the bracha at the end of Yishtabach, but omit Shem Hashem. You can say the word Kel through all the times it is noted in Nishmat, but don't say the word Ado and then Nai, okay? So there are two ways to finish it. Both ways are accepted, both ways are beautiful, and it is brought down that someone who takes upon themselves to say Nishmat Kol Chai for 40 consecutive days, each time verbalizing what they're saying it for, whether it's for emotional peace, whether it's for physical health, whether it's for parnasa, whether it's for refuah for somebody. Rebbetzin Kanievsky promised that those who say Nishmat Kol Chai will be shown tremendous yeshuot. When we see that and how we see that is entirely up to Avinu Shabashamayim. But this is a great way for you to enter from now until Shavuot. We're about to receive the greatest gift of all, the gift of our Torah. Let's make ourselves proper recipients in order to receive this beautiful gift. So I want to thank you all for having me. I want to thank you for bringing me on. Sorry that it went so over time, but I felt like to touch upon Gali and my struggles and at the same time shed some light. and bring you all a little bit closer to Hashem through Nishmat Kosai. I'm so grateful to all of you. And thank you for having me. So grateful to all of you. And please, if you feel the need to reach out to me, you can find me on Instagram at Charlene Aminoff. And I'm wishing you all light and laughter and bracha and mazel ad meves from Shana.
Thank you so much. What a journey you took us on. Really, really, really. To hear your story, to be part of it, we thank you from the bottom of our heart. We hope very soon, when everything's restricted, we can invite you to come and journey in Africa. Bring your family, Charlene, and you will be have a beautiful, beautiful time, and we'll hear more from you. So thank you. I hope you feel better. Wish you thank you for your time and enlightening us. And please, God, after tonight, many women will take on what you have to say. So really, we really, really thank you. And thank you, everybody, for being with us. A special thank you to Ruthie Welsher, for putting this together and for making sure that we could get Charlene. And we are so grateful. Charlene, we will see you again.
Thank you so much. My love to all the ladies in South Africa. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Bye. Thank you. It was wonderful.